Hello, welcome to the Bitcoin Not Crypto weekly live show. This is a Q&A with myself. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have in the chat. Welcome to everyone who's here already. And yeah, we're going to start the week off strong by giving away some free sats. So get your Lightning wallets out. This is courtesy of the Bitcoin Well for the early comers to the show. You can scan this QR code that's about to pop up on screen here. You have a 1 in 10,000 chance of this being a 1 million Satoshi winnings here. So scan the QR code and you'll win some free sats. There's a new animation even. This is awesome. And 210 sats to whoever scans this. If you don't want to compete for this, you can just use my link in the description to sign up to Bitcoin Well, and you get 5 free tosses in the Bitcoin Wishing Well. We're going to do one more, though. Send to Well. I'm just, well, how do you exit out of this? That's, okay. Not what I want to do, guys. I guess I got to go back. Don't love that. All right. We're going to do one more toss in the Wishing Well here. And then we're going to get into today's show a little bit. Bitcoin's been doing some crazy stuff, right? Bitcoin's been doing some crazy stuff. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to get into whatever else you guys want to chat about as well. This is a weekly show that I do every single Monday, 10 a.m. I accidentally scheduled it for p.m., that classic alarm clock mistake. And we're going to talk a little bit about basically recent price action of Bitcoin. We're going to look at some charts. Everybody loves a chart boy moment. And let's do that right now, actually. So the question is this normal? Is this a normal bull market for Bitcoin? So this right here, this is sort of the 2001 bull market, right? It kind of peaked up here around $68,000. Now, what you can see here is prior to that peak, there was a pullback here to here, about 30%. There was a pullback from here to here, about 55%. Pretty big. And then this was what would be considered the bear market right here, which is 76%, which is really big. So that's just the last bull market. There's examples of all of that happening here as well. Massive pullbacks in previous bull markets. If we look here, this might not look like much, but let's see. Even this one right here. What kind of pullback is this? That's 40% right there. And that's clearly in a bull market. That's in the 2017, 2018 bull market. Here to here, 37. And I mean, massive spikes downward. I mean, that was the peak there, but you can see that these corrections, like this basically is the bottom here. People wouldn't have known necessarily we're in another bull market here, but we technically were, and had a drawdown of 63%. Right, so crazy volatility. This is the asset that we hold, and it is still capable of these kind of movements. And I think that's something that you don't really understand unless you've been through it. You can look at this chart historically. You can think about these things, but until you actually feel what it's like to have your portfolio basically cut in half because you're all in on Bitcoin and it's a bull market, and you're wondering, is it a bull market, right? It's going to make you question everything. So we've even seen this in this bull market, right? That's 30% down. That's pretty big. It was actually a little bit more than that. And, we traded kind of basically sideways and down from here. But what are we at now? So we are at 41%. So this so far isn't necessarily any different than what we've seen in the past. Now, what's interesting though is, you can look at charts and all this, and you can think, okay, well, this pattern is pretty similar to this pattern. So, we already charted this one. We already measured this one from top to bottom, 70%, right? So if we if we chart from here down 70%, where's that going to leave us? And are we able to handle that price? So let's go exactly to 70, and that brings us to 37K. Are you able to handle 37K? And if I know a lot of people don't like technical analysis, but this is 37K around the sort of the zone of 37K. This is 37K. We have this as 37K. It's a lot of buyers and sellers sort of waiting in this line. There's lots of things before. 58K is no joke. The sort of 50 to 60, 70K is no joke. There's a lot of buyers and sellers there too, right? That's the peak of this, peak here, and then this consolidation zone here where there's lots of stability, I would say, within that price. But can you ask yourself, because okay, so if this is a bull market, we can go down to 60K. If this is actually the bear market, my opinion is that we go down to 32K. Can you handle either of those? And the question really is, you shouldn't even really ask yourself about timing, because timing, there's like 1% of people that are going to time this right. Um, there's Most people are going to just time it incorrectly. So I wouldn't even really bother with that. So the question really is, can you handle your current position and any future positions for a while? Because the other thing that maybe is worth measuring here, not sure which tool to use, but I'll just use this one. This one actually works pretty well. Is, can you handle the time frame? Right. So this is June to November of the next year. What is that? Almost like a year and a half, a little bit less than a year and a half. Um, that's quite a long time to wait for the vast majority of people. And I think the other thing too is, when you're thinking of investing, when you're thinking of building your wealth in your portfolio, um, it's very difficult to hold on to something when you see other things run. So recently, we saw this drawdown in Bitcoin, and it kind of coincided with a increase in the second best asset, right? So it's very painful if you're considering all of these things, if you're kind of on the fence, if you haven't been through this before, if you're unsure about the asset, you don't really understand it that much, or you bought it with the intentions of it doubling, tripling, going 10x, and then being able to retire, in a short period of time. If you're seeing, Bitcoin drop like this from its highs, and you're seeing gold completely decouple from that, it's sort of like a double whammy of difficulty. And that could be the same case in this, in a time frame of chopping sideways near a low. That could be right now. We could be at that low now. We could trade sideways for quite a while. And that is actually a lot more painful than people realize. When Bitcoin is boring, it's very, very painful, because there's other more shiny things that people end up trying to go for. And the trading in and out of this is, um, very short term thinking. And ultimately, the thing is here is, once you understand Bitcoin, it's really easy to say these things, and it kind of sounds dumb, but when you realize it, the gravity of the opportunity we have, it just makes no sense to risk and squander it. And what I'm saying here that sounds dumb and simple is that this asset is worth a lot more than what it's currently trading at. It's a finite asset that is desirable by everyone in the world, and it is a true escape valve from the monetary system that we live in, and it has an inelastic supply, unlike anything we've ever seen before. So, if you believe just that simple thesis, right, that is condensed into like one sentence. There's so much more beyond that as well to understand. But if you just condensed it into one sentence there, and you realize the gravity and really what that meant, you would realize I don't want the second best asset that's outperforming in a 1-year time frame or a half a year time frame, or I don't want to take a bet on AI when these valuations are completely blown out and nothing makes sense. I don't want to hold cash as it's being debased. Um, you know, all of these things start to just look like a they just start to look like a distraction, which in my view they really are. So what I'm doing, as much as I'm bringing this up, I brought this up not to scare people, not to say, oh, we could go to 37,000, as that would kind of be the same. That would be historically the same drawdown that we saw in 2022 from the all-time high here. But to just show that the truth of it really is, if you guys want the truth, let me just show you this screen one more time here. The truth is we are always in a bull market with Bitcoin. This is a non-stop bull market. These time frames are maybe a little bit longer than the only thing that is disrupting it from being a non-stop bull market is looking at it in different time frames. If you look at it in smaller time frames, you think, okay, well, there's a sideways market that lasts a year and a half. There's a bear market that lasts 1 year. There's these kind of things, right? All of that's true, but if you zoom out, this is all a freaking bull market. This is up and to the right. If you draw a line, I'm gonna brush up on my let's see. Where's just the line? Oh, there it is. Okay. If you just chart, I mean, you can chart this from the beginning, but we're just gonna chart it from basically here, right through the middle. Right, we have moments of overextending beyond that. That's definitely not perfect, but it's sort of to represent sort of just a middle line there. You could also do a moving average or something like that. We have moments of extending beyond that middle line. We have moments of dipping below, and these are all, you know, I guess you can trade this if you really wanted to, if you had like multi-year whatever, but it doesn't make sense to have less position to an asset like this in the long run. If you're thinking 10, 20, 30 years, I'm thinking multi-generational, honestly, with my Bitcoin position. I don't need it now. I'm working age. I'm focusing on my work, and I'm using Bitcoin as my retirement account. And I plan to retire. I don't know. Somebody actually said in one of our Maple Bitcoin streams, retiring is something you do to your truck. I think that makes sense. Like if I want to produce something and if I get value back from that, then why would I stop doing that? If I don't want to produce anything, then that's when I can rely on something like this. But I just think that sure, Bitcoin could dip, it could go all the way down to 30, but that's still, twice as much as it went down last time, which is twice as much as it went down the time before, right? It just you can try to time it and scoop up more sats, I guess. I just think it's way more risky than people realize, and I think honestly this is the other thing that happens with this price action of Bitcoin is that people have a plan, right? They plan, okay, I'm going to sell near these prices, and then maybe they do that, right? And then they're like, okay, well, I'm going to now wait till it gets below the 200 to this price, to this historical line. 70% down from the top means 37K. That's where I'm going to start buying again. Well, guess what? Maybe that takes a couple years to get to. Maybe it takes a year to get to. Meanwhile, gold is skyrocketing, silver skyrocketing, AI skyrocketing, this and that. China stocks are going nuts. There's the people that were pushing Palantir last year found a new hot stock to push. You see that, you hop on that with a little bit of cash. Um, the whole time you get distracted and likely you will forget. You will forget to buy back in. And it seems like a crazy concept, but the other thing too is you might buy into something that then goes down and you think, well, there's a lot of potential here. Should I swap this out at a loss to Bitcoin, or should I just wait till this to recover and Bitcoin hopefully stays near where my price target was and all this? And It's very likely, as much as this seems very predictable, it's very likely that you will make enough small mistakes that you end up with less Bitcoin than you did than you had if you had just consistently bought and held. And I think ultimately that's what matters, because fiat is worthless. We price everything in fiat, and you need an asset that can't be debased. Gold basically doubles its stockpile in around 60 years. Silver, much quicker than that. No other commodity makes any sense in an investable time frame for any long duration, as their stock to flow is much worse than either of those. Companies have large jurisdictional risk. They can go up priced in that fiat as well. But you know, we look at, even if you look again, if you look at S&P priced in gold, it's done nothing. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I just keep saying this because, of course, it makes sense with, looking back, 2020 vision, right? Looking back and saying, oh, well, yeah, you just buy when it's low, you sell when it's high. The difficulty of that is incomprehensible to people that have not made that mistake before, that have not ridden through this, that recognize that it is so easy to make these tiny little mistakes that compound. Maybe it's an altcoin you see that starts to rip and decorrelates from Bitcoin for a small action because it's pumped by VCs, and you think, well, I can ride this up, I can swing trade this. You end up timing that incorrectly. You end up with less fiat at the end of it when you finally admit that you're wrong and that you exit. And guess what? The whole time Bitcoin's been creeping back up. And now you get less Bitcoin for the fiat because you have less fiat. There's just so many little mistakes you can make. And I think that it's not worth making these small mistakes with something as special, as unique, and as valuable as Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is going to become the base layer monetary network of the future, and every Satoshi is what represents monetary value of everything else in the world, then it really is everything else priced in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin needs to be able to facilitate that. And I think it's really hard to wrap your head around how valuable a Satoshi can be in that moment. I think it's very, very difficult. Um, so for me, what's my strategy? Obviously, I wish I had more dry powder. I wish I had a little bit more cash reserve. I could buy the dip here and all of that. I'm still in my earning years. So as money comes in, any extra goes into Bitcoin. And I try to do it as strategically as possible within, a monthly time frame, right? If I see a dip, I'll sort of double down. I run a weekly dollar cost average, and I sort of manually hyper accelerate that when I think it's a good buying opportunity. It's not sophisticated. It's not going to get me the greatest returns possible, but the risk reward of a strategy is important to recognize. And what I'm saying here is timing the 4-year cycles, trying to sell the top, trying to buy the bottom. It's a far riskier strategy than just dollar cost averaging. So I like to look at it in that way and think, okay, well, what's sort of the best risk to reward strategy? And I think that what I'm doing is the best risk to reward. A dollar cost average is lower risk but lower reward. I think sort of a hyper accelerated or a hybrid strategy of dollar cost averaging with a lump sum increases risk but increases reward, and in a ratio where it makes sense. So that's all I'm doing. I'm keeping it simple. I'm not trying to complicate things. I'm not trying to time everything to such crazy degrees. If I can time something within a month where I pick up, a few extra thousand sats from my lump sum because I doubled down on it, I'll be happy about that in a few years. It's not going to matter that much that I bought at 78 instead of this weekend when Binance dumped $1 billion worth of Bitcoin or whatever it ended up, whatever it was, and it dropped to 76 or whatever. It's not going to make the difference, right? As much as every Satoshi is worth a lot, and yes, you would get a little extra Satoshis if you perfectly luckily planned it all out and got it right. you're still ending up with thousands of Satoshis, millions of Satoshis, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Satoshis, and you are going to be incredibly wealthy if you can protect that and if you can keep that. And I think trying to be cheeky with timing, and especially when you are selling your Bitcoin, because right there, if you have Bitcoin and you're buying Bitcoin, you're acquiring more Bitcoin. If you're selling Bitcoin to acquire more Bitcoin, there's a portion of time there where you have less Bitcoin because you sold your Bitcoin. So that entire time that you are out of that position, you are at risk of having less Bitcoin in the future because you have less Bitcoin now because you sold your Bitcoin. So I think overall, it ends up being way too risky to do that. So buy, hold, double down on the dips, and have a long enough time horizon that you can zoom out and you'll recognize the entire thing was a bull market. It's that meme um, of the two astronauts on the moon, right? And the person saying it was a bull, it was a the whole thing was a bull market all along, and the other person saying it always was, right? And that's the case. That's going to be the case, I think. All right. Let's get into some chats here. We got a few people in the chat here. We got Zapstream is ripping. We got a few people there. Zapstream is on Noster, so if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and do so. Yeah, let's see. What do we have here? I actually also want to just quickly do something. Let's see. Gotta go to downloads. Nope. Sorry, guys. I should have gotten this ready beforehand. I'm going to start answering questions, though. So if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. And I just wanted to throw this up on screen. Of course, nothing's loading properly. Be right back, guys. And I'm literally back, and it's loaded. All right. So that QR code right there is a link to the Bitcoin school community called the Bitcoin Masters that I run. It is full of hardcore Bitcoiners from all different knowledge bases, and they are all learning Bitcoin, self custody, non KYC practices. All sorts of incredible information is being shared there. I actually have a couple courses. One of them I'm actively working on. One of them is fully complete. We'll take a quick little look at that. You can scan that with your phone, that QR code, and get transported digitally to my school community. And let's see, share this tab. Let's take a quick peek at these courses. So this is my master Bitcoin basics and beyond. This is an 8-part course that I made. Each one is about a kind of a simple aspect of Bitcoin, but going really deep into it to cover all of the aspects that people might not have fully thought out. So then I have this other class called Complete Privacy, Best Privacy Practices. This is one I'm actively working on. This will be available to purchase all out, but if you're part of the school, you'll actually receive this as the episodes get released. So this one here is sort of a deep dive on how you can be, sort of a scratching the first layer of, not a deep dive. The rest is a deep dive on all the concepts that I bring up in this foundation episode 1. Talks about what KYC is, what kind of practices you can do to be more private with Bitcoin, and this is gonna be incredibly helpful to anybody looking for privacy within Bitcoin. You can join the course. There's 27 absolute Bitcoin psychopaths here that have joined. $21 a month. You can also go to pathtobitcoin.xyz, and if you book a session with me, you'll actually get free lifetime membership. And it's only for the first 100 members of the school. As soon as I hit 100 members on that in the school, this is gone. There's no way to get a lifetime access anymore. It's only monthly or yearly. So get that lifetime access or join the school Try it out. There's also a 7-day free trial, so you can check that out, and look forward to seeing you guys there. Yeah. All right. So please, can you mention your opinions about the meetings with Adam Spack and Epstein? This looks bad. Yeah, I mean, Epstein had his so to sort of be on the side of just sort of real basic, um without having additional knowledge of what's going on here, it should be known that Epstein invested in tons of stuff. He had like thousands of investments, and a lot of it was to just have his claws into things, to be a part of all these social circles. I have my serious doubts that this guy worked alone, right? I think you should counter trade and basically believe the exact opposite of anything Cash Patel and Dan Bonjoni or whatever his name is, said, right? He said, "Oh, he worked alone. There's no evidence of blackmail, none of this." I think that's a lot of bullshit. This guy clearly was attempting to create material on people. So, with that said, there's also some emails that he had with Jason Calcanis where he asked about what is this Bitcoin thing? Do you know people about it? And Jason warned him that Bitcoin is more of this open source revolutionary type thing, similar to Wikipedia or WikiLeaks, and to not get involved in it. Um, Epstein did invest in a seed round of Blockstream and then divested that at a certain point because of conflict of interest. There's, I believe there's emails talking about them meeting in the St. Bart's area, which is next to the island, Epstein Island or whatever. You can only glean so much from emails. So just putting a very um, not a positive spin, but just like sort of a realist spin on this. You could think, okay, well, he's trying to get his tentacles into everything. He's trying to get connected to everybody, trying to be a part of everything. And then he would probably dive deeper into certain aspects where he could get real blackmail or more important contacts or something like that. Seemed to me, if that was the case, that this was just a feeler out into this specific thing about Bitcoin, and then moved away from it anyway. But those are just through emails. So we don't actually know what happened in conversations or beyond that. So it could be worse than what we can see in emails. But in emails, it just kind of it looks like any other business sort of thing, which is um, not really. Uh, obviously, you don't want to have business with somebody like Epstein, but it could have just been business stuff. Very, very hard to know. Very, very hard to know there, I would say. There's much more damning stuff like the elongated muskrat stuff about him like actively seeking out a party, wanting there to be the crazy. I want to go to the craziest one, and then Epstein being like, "Oh, sorry, man, got to bail on you." That's way more damning. There was some stuff about Howard Lutnick, basically having way more communication with the guy than he said that he did. He said that the first time he met him, he had this interaction where there was a massage table in the middle of his dining room, and Epstein said, "Oh yeah, the right kind of massages." And then they're like, "Oh, we gotta go," and I'm never hanging out in the same room as that guy. Meanwhile, for years after that, he's communicating with him via email. So that kind of stuff looks way worse, in my opinion, than anything that Adam Spack had to do with as far as emails go. Again, there's so much beyond emails that we don't know what happened. Could be really bad, but I kind of have to give the benefit of the doubt to the fact that it could have just been a very small business financial thing. Um, Again, for Epstein to just have his fingers in as much as possible, as many connections as possible, and then he would go deeper into the blackmailing and providing illicit services in all sorts of ways by the looks of him. But who knows? Again, I always you know, I don't want to assume anything without any sort of evidence. So that's what I say there. But there's evidence that other people have definitely lied about their relationship with Epstein. That's for sure. Appreciate it, Martin. Yes, I dollar cost average, hybrid strategy, dollar cost average, lump sum, all that kind of stuff. Nav asks, what do you think about Nunchuk? I think Nunchuk is awesome. I think it's awesome the services they have as a DIY services. So like you can set up a multi-sig within there. It's my preferred mobile companion app for my signing device. So I use Sparrow for desktop. I use Nunchuk for my mobile. Their DIY multi-sig setup is really great. It's really easy. Works really well, and they have a couple services that are really cool. So they have sort of like a non-KYC inheritance protocol that you can set up with them. They have a multi-party multi-sig custodial situation that you can set up with them. Their fees are significantly lower than say Casa or Unchained. There still is sort of a subscription yearly fee with that, which I don't love. But I could see that being the right situation for certain people that are okay with paying. I think it's only like $120 a year or something like that. It's not crazy, especially compared to some other ones out there. Um, there are ways like the super backed folks that sort of have something similar esque, more sovereignty even beyond that, and they do like a lump sum, which I think is more preferable for the vast majority of people. Or is it the 21 Sats protocol as well does that too? So I think I try not to do any subscription stuff. I hate subscription stuff. So that's the one thing I would say about Nunchuk as they have a subscription fee there, which I understand because it's sort of an ongoing process that they have to be there for. So they need sort of ongoing payments to make sure that they're going to be there when you need them. So I understand why they do that. I think it does make sense. But from a consumer aspect, I try to avoid that kind of stuff. But the DIY aspect of Nunchuk is awesome. Love it. I took 150 covered call for this week. How about you? I have to check. I had to. What did I do? I'll quickly check there, Nav. So Nav is talking about MSTR covered calls, which we do every week, or well, I do, and it seems like he does as well. My covered call is for 155, and I'm already $190 up on that one because MSTR is not performing well because of Bitcoin. So not doing bad on that. Orange Focus Media. I just can't see a drop below 60K. There's so much money ready to buy at that level. Yeah, I agree. And I think that we should always be thinking about Bitcoin trading within these bands where at any point it can go up 10% or down 10% from where it currently is. And it really just isn't a big deal. It just kind of is what it is within that. It's still within the range. That's the way I think about it. So, drop below 60K. If it went to 60, grinded down to 60K, I think it could drop, 55, but it could go up to 66. That's the way I would think about it, right? Being able to move 10%, but still stay within that range of wherever it is. So I think that today, right? I think actually, I could totally be wrong, but I was saying this at 80, what is it, maybe 84, 80, 82, something like that. I was saying, I think we're 10% from the bottom, right? I think we're in this range where we're going to chop 10% down, chop 10% up, and then just eventually make a move up once enough leverage is cleared, once enough funny games has been cleared, once there's enough continued clarity within Bitcoin for the short-term holders and investors. And I think we just continue to grind up after that. Trade sideways until that is all figured out. Yo, 88 Sats, what's up? Good day, Forrest. Good day, future billionaires. Epstein created Bitcoin. Yeah, man. He ordered books in 2018 about Bitcoin, so he must have created it. I think you're just joking, but yeah. What's your biggest Bitcoin learning lesson from 2025 and this unofficial bear market? My learning lesson is more so about my my oversized position in MSTR. I think it was more irresponsible for me to buy inflated, not inflated, but buying MSTR when there's an MNAV, which is built, which understanding MNAV a little bit more, it's more so built off of hype, um, which is fine when that happens, but understanding that hype doesn't have as much structure to it and it's more prone to collapsing. So, my position in MSTR, uh, not including covered calls, I basically round tripped the thing, right? I was swapping in between MSTR and MSTE, so it's a little bit difficult to figure out my exact purchase price, but I started buying MSTR below $100 before the split, and sort of started to buy more and more. So I think it was probably like around $150 my entry price in MSTR. I think, there's a lot, like, I understood a lot of Bitcoin stuff, and but I was actively learning a lot about, as everybody is, from the sort of treasury company and what kind of things could be seen. Um, I think a big learning from that scene was seeing Smarter Web Company and being absolutely, um, what's the word? Absolutely disgusted isn't the right term, but being like completely turned off of investing in it. I saw that. I thought there is no way that this ends well in the short term. Maybe in the long term because they hold Bitcoin and they're going to be, hold big. If they can continue to hold their Bitcoin, that's great and they'll do fine. But in the short term, it just seems so unrealistic that MNAV was going to hold. And that was a lesson of, okay, well, the MNAV of any of these is built on sentiment and hype, which is a fleeting thing in Bitcoin, more broadly. So I should expect those to collapse to some degree. I personally believe fundamentally, if you understand the way that these companies acquire Bitcoin, that they do deserve a premium to MNAV. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think that things can get overextended with hype. And that was something that I've learned. And I actually think that we've seen way more of a bear market in these Bitcoin treasury companies than we have in Bitcoin. And I actually think that that could be a catalyst for not having a real bear market here, is that they have been the sponges of, um, the compression, the price action did to the downside. They have been the shock absorbers for that. But that was a lesson I personally learned, was that as much as the thesis makes sense with MSTR, they're buying Bitcoin at a cost of capital that is cheaper than the price appreciation of Bitcoin, and they're doing that nonstop and throughout time. I still think that thesis plays out, but I think that the MNAV is a very clear representation of when there's hype, and that hype is should be understood as not having a lot of structure to it and could easily collapse. That would be my lesson with that. And that for the vast majority of people, it's probably better to just stay away from that kind of stuff and just to buy Bitcoin. For me, if I haven't done this for a while, but I should recalculate my cost basis. I should really figure out a way better estimate of my actual cost basis without covered calls, and then calculate in my covered call premium earnings. And I would say I'm probably very close to, like, I don't know. I've made a lot of cash from covered calls on um, strategy, so it's been all right in that way. Can you explain your dollar cost strategy? Like, when you buy, which exchange do you suggest, and which wallets do you recommend? I recommend the Cold Card Q for your hardware wallet. This thing works really, really well. You can pair that with Sparrow on your desktop. Um, you can pair it with Nunchuk on mobile, and you'll be good to go. And I use Bitcoin well to dollar cost average. I have a reoccurring buy setup on there, and then I buy on to a Lightning wallet, buy to my Coinos wallet, and then I swap that over to on chain once there's enough Sats. Once, a million Sats or even less is fine too, so that you get a nice big chunk of UTXO over there. And then dollar cost average strategy. So weekly buy of a sort of just a set amount, and then I'll smash buy kind of a little bit irresponsibly, even if I don't have the the money to do so, knowing that I can make more money into the future and sort of pay that off. I'll smash buy when I basically feel from vibes that everybody hates Bitcoin. I think, okay, it's a good time to buy. Look at the charts a little bit, think, okay, well, there's a little bit of resistance here, a little support. We're bouncing off of some of these technicals that, bots trade with and people trade with and all this kind of stuff. Then yeah, I'll double dip, or I'll use any extra cash that I might have on hand as well to do that. Yo, we got, whoa, Pac-Man, $20 with the Pac-Man. Epstein thrived on hidden money and leverage. Bitcoin threatened the world by making money permissionless and unseizable. He didn't build Bitcoin, he feared it and tried to get close to what could make him obsolete. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. You can also see that he invested in a lot of other crypto projects as well. Unsurprisingly, he invested in Zcash, Zcash Foundation. Don't know too much about that, but I have seen a little rumblings of it. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin threatens the entire system, right? And um, a lot of people are talking about sort of like the blackmail ring of Epstein and kind of stuff like that. And I think a lot of that has become the physical representation of it has become a little bit redundant in this world, where the technological elite or the technological industrial complex that Simon Dixon might call it has, or even Whitney Webb. We'll talk about this too. And I know they're kind of a little bit doomerish, these people, but I don't think they're wrong in the sense of technology basically creating these profiles on you, and essentially that's all they need to have sort of the blackmail on you. There can also be digital representations of synthetic information that can blackmail people too. So I think Jeff Epp, the financier, Jeff Epp, less and less useful in today's age. His position, what he did was has been less and less useful as technology has improved in a way. I think Bitcoin, secured properly, used properly, kept private as much as possible, not reusing addresses and beyond. Coin join implementations, non-KYC purchases, peer-to-peer, these kind of aspects make it even better. But right here, as you said, it is money that is permissionless and unseizable. That is incredibly important. And I think that Bitcoin threatens not just the Epstein empire that he built and that probably still exists to some degree, with somebody else who knows, 10, 20 years, we might recognize that there's, Epstein 2.0, whoever it might be. But Bitcoin is, if you just focus on living a good life, stacking Bitcoin, and recognizing that everybody with any means needs Bitcoin, they need it as the escape valve from the monetary system that is broken, that you will do really well financially, purchasing power away, and you will be supporting the system that does not facilitate and does not allow for this kind of activity. Um, it does in the way that it's neutral, like people could pay for illicit stuff using Bitcoin. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't have these broken incentives like fiat has, where it's corruptible. Fiat is so corruptible. I mean, Epstein was banked by the biggest banker in the world, and we all just think that fiat is. Most people just think fiat is fine. That Bitcoin is used by criminals. Well, what the hell was that? What the hell is what's his name being uh, Jamie Dimon being Epstein's banker? Like, geez Louise. All right. What's up, Naughty Vlogs? Good to see you in the chat. What's the issue with the reusing an address? The issue with that is that when you can technically reuse addresses, right? You can send Bitcoin to the same address. You can set chunks of you can hold multiple UTXOs within the same address. If you spend Bitcoin from there, if you send Bitcoin from there, that Bitcoin connects that address to whatever goes on with that Bitcoin. Then you send another UTXO from that same address somewhere else. All of that history connects back to that one single address. So you're creating way more data points of activity and therefore reducing your personal digital privacy with Bitcoin. So a really simple solution with that, and any decent wallet is going to just automatically use new addresses. Satoshi talked about this as well. That's the way Bitcoin is designed, is to be able to is to use new addresses, and it's to have only the transactions within that new address be linkable, obviously, because it's a public blockchain to that address, not other activity that's going on there as well. Maple Bitcoin had no communication with Epstein confirmed. Yeah, you won't see our names in there. Do you recommend using a border wallet as one of 3 keys in a multisig, or 2 hardware, 1 software key? Hmm. A border wallet as one of 3 keys in a multisig. You could. Um, you could. I would prefer using just 3 hardware wallet keys. I don't think there's any reason to use a software key at all. Border wallet, I don't know. Like, the border wallet's generated by, say you use the Sparrow border wallet. That's just a software. Um, I don't really see the positive of doing that. What would be the paradigm miner? Have you thought about what? Because I can't just off the top of my head here think about why you would want to do that. I guess out of ease of not needing 3 hardware wallets, maybe. Yes, you can use Nunchuk. Nav, you're talking about Nunchuk here. You can use Nunchuk without a subscription. You just sign in as a guest. You don't need an email. You don't need anything. And that's what I mean by DIY. Is everything you do on there is just with yourself. You can go non-DIY and implement certain things that Sparrow will work with you with, which is the inheritance protocol they have and the multi-party multi-sig that they have. So you can do DIY, and it's exactly like Sparrow. The user interface is different, but it's very similar to Sparrow, I should say. Yeah, Bitcoin is the only moral investment. I completely agree with that too. Yeah, Nunchuk also has a desktop version. I haven't even used the desktop version. I'm so into Sparrow. Sparrow is just so legit. I don't really see a reason to use it. But yeah, I guess you could. You definitely could give it a try. Maybe I should give it a try to see too. There's also some, yeah, the inheritance protocol that Nunchuk allows is pretty cool. They can make it so that it's you can have a time locked address where then you can keep continually pushing that address out, and then it becomes basically released to your next of kin at a certain point, which is really really cool. I'm just gonna bring up some. Need to use my authenticator here. I'm gonna bring up some more Bitcoin coin tosses for y'all. Oop, something went wrong. No, nothing went wrong. There we go. So let's try this out. Where is, okay, share this tab. All right, so we're gonna give away a couple more chunks of Bitcoin here. So if you have a Lightning wallet, like Wallet of Satoshi, let's see, Blue Wallet, Coinos, Moon, Phoenix, Zeus, any of those beyond, you can scan the QR code that's about to pop up on the screen, and you can win some free Satoshis. And if you look here, there's a bunch of chance to 1 in 20. You could make 2,100 to 21,000 sats. 1 in 10,000, not that crazy. You could win 1,000,000 sats. So get your wallets ready to scan this QR code that's about to pop up on the screen here. I'm going to do 2 tosses, then I'm going to answer the last kind of questions here, and then I'm going to hop off. I got a call here pretty soon. 21,000 Satoshis, y'all. This is crazy. I'm going to zoom in on that one. Scan that. Let me know if you scanned it. Oh, also, I totally forgot to do this at the start of the show. is a really good way to get engagement on on the live stream. Shout out where you guys are watching from and around the world. Be cool to see. 21,000 satoshis to one lucky scanner. And you can use my link in the description to get some free Bitcoin this same way and not have to compete for it. So let's just, I guess refreshing is the move here. Too blurry. Well, let's see. Yep, somebody scanned it. Unfortunately, it might have been too blurry for you, Fick a Flame, but somebody got it. We're going to do one more here, and you might just have to up the res on the video, or maybe, unfortunately, my stream is a little bit, pixely. I'm not 100% sure. 210 sats on this one. All right, and we'll answer the last couple questions and we'll hop off. I got a call at 11:15, a client call, and you can book me for a client call as well and join the school through the link in the other QR code that's on screen or the link in the description. Nav says, I can't connect one of my hardware wallets to Sparrow. It's not a known wallet. To Sparrow. You should be able to still connect it either through the scan if you can plug it in, or there's a generic JSON. There's a couple different options here. Let me just take a quick peek at Sparrow. New wallet, import wallet. Let's see. Yeah, you might be able to try the output descriptor. I would try that. That might work for you. Yeah, try output descriptor. Give that a try. That's just like a generic export. Have you tried Cake Wallet on mobile? No, I haven't. The only thing I know about Cake Wallet is there's a Monero guy that I know that talks about Cake Wallet all the time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really use hot wallets all that much. I literally use a hot wallet to just receive a little bit of referral stuff. And then I stack that up to a certain level, and then I just bring it over to cold storage. And I also use the Lightning wallet as well for the dollar cost average. And then it's literally just an intermediary for like Lightning. That's the only hot wallet stuff that I ever use really at this point. I feel like I can live off doing covered calls and cash secure puts on MSTR. It seems crazy because it's so easy to do. Yeah, and there's going to be a time where I expect myself to go into covered call purgatory, but you could still earn premiums off that by just allowing the theta decay to erode some of the current call or put value and then rolling it out. But I expect that to happen because I expect MSTR to eventually rip beyond where it, to make a covered call that makes sense. Let me just show my screen real quick here, my guy. I'm gonna share. This is for you, Nav. There we go. Okay, you see that? So you go to File, Import Wallet, and then you go down to Output Descriptor, Import File, or Scan if you have a QR code. That's to answer that. I think the QR code was too small, unfortunately, for my scanner to recognize. Ah, dang. Next time, yeah, I don't know. When I zoom in, it just sort of resizes it, keeps it the same size, unfortunately. I can't really do much about that. They changed it a little bit, and it's nice for the user, but a little bit more difficult for us streamers out there. How much do you stack before sending 0.01? Wouldn't I be stacking 0.01 if I was going to send that much? If I reach 0.01 in a hot wallet, I'm sending it. Absolutely. I'm sending it before that. I usually get to about 200,000 Satoshis before I send. I might consolidate them later if I feel like that's necessary, but I don't. I think 200,000 sats is fine for a UTXO size. When MSTR rips, I will make money off from selling puts. Works both ways. Yeah, true. It's just if you're positioned incorrectly, then there might be a couple moments where you have to roll and reposition. But yeah. Do you think removing cap gains is something that is possible? I can't see how it would be politically palatable unless all financial assets got the same treatment. No, it's I see it as completely palatable because it is not a financial instrument, it's money. It should be treated the same as money. There could be I think in Canada, when you're switching between currencies, there's sort of some sort of tax around that, which I could see them sticking about. And in Canada, I mean, they're probably going to be very late to having any sort of favorable tax treatment on Bitcoin because they're behind on basically everything important. But I see it becoming politically palatable because they need money to come into their their ecosystem. They need high net worth individuals to spend their Bitcoin because Bitcoin is money. It's the only thing of value in the form of money. So it's really going to be the fact that governments around the world are going to create favorable tax treatment to incentivize people to move there. And eventually, that's going to have a knock-on effect where it's game theory playing out. So I don't see that happening to all financial assets. I think it stays the same for investments, and but Bitcoin is money; it's not an investment. Yeah, I don't really. I've never used Exodus Wallet. Can't comment on that one, Kevin. Okay, good to know. I'm super worried about managing my UTXOs. I have been saving about 1 million sats in River and then sending, but I think you're right. Yeah, that's fine too. That's fine. I mean, River is a fairly trustworthy. They show proof of reserves. I think that they're one of the better exchanges out there for the U.S. 1 million sats is fine. It's a pretty big UTXO in the future. I think I would send less over too. I think it's fine to have, especially if you ever end up wanting to spend your Bitcoin. 1 million sat UTXO that's traceable back to you from whoever you're buying something from might seem like a lot of money at a certain point. So you could do a little bit less than that. Any opinions on River? I like the no fees on recurring buys and direct deposit buys. Yeah, I think they're great, and I like the idea of being able to hold cash in there too to get a little bit of extra Bitcoin paid in Sats. Not bad, not bad at all. I like Bitcoin well because there's no exchange failure risk whatsoever. You just send them money, they send you Bitcoin directly. So I like that entire process. It makes way more sense as a Bitcoiner to me, but I understand the idea of using River as well. And if I was in the States, I would have a River account and I would have a Bitcoin Well account and I would use them probably similarly to how some people in Canada would use ShakePay. And ShakePay is basically the Canadian River, I would say. And then Bitcoin Well is in both jurisdictions. I want to do a multi-sig with that one wallet as of one of them. So I don't think importing would apply here. I'm not sure what you. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting this or something. But you have to import. Uh, you have to create a new wallet, change the type to multi-sig, and then import your keystone from Keystore. uh, sorry, Keystone is a wallet. Keystore to of each of those keys that you're making into a multi-sig. How to register for River if located in Canada? You don't. It's an American only jurisdiction company. What's the best way to get non-KYC? The best way is to do peer-to-peer. Keister. uh, the best way is to do a peer-to-peer transaction. How that works, how that happens is there's not an easy way to do it. It's probably going to require some sort of trust or using a platform that mitigates that trust but has fees associated with it, like HODL HODL. Yeah, you could use, if you're in Canada, you could use a Bitcoin Well ATM machines. They probably are like the best ease, trust, and fee sort of medium ground with all of that. It's around, I think, 6 or 7% spread and fees total on that for non KYC, which is very, very difficult to get. Otherwise, yeah, peer-to-peer at a local meetup might be the other best way. But again, that requires a little bit of trust. Can't you just break down a big UTXO in your own wallet first before spending for a purchase, etc.? Yeah, you can. It's not the most robust way of providing digital privacy because that comes from another wallet that obviously isn't an exchange or third party wallet or doesn't have a coin join associated with it. So somebody they have to make an assumption, but they could more easily assume that that is just you breaking up your UTXO. But you could, they have to assume that. But yes, you could do that. A simple way, more robust way of doing that would to be to actually just have a large UTXO and send that through a coin join to whoever you're sending it to. Then they literally have no idea which address it came from. That's one other way. Opinion on calling them bits versus sats. I'm a sat guy. I'm a sat man. I think it pays homage to Satoshi, and I think that's right. I think Satoshi was a legend for what he did, what he stepped away from, what he built, what he gave us, and I think it's right to call them Satoshis. I understand the idea of calling them Bitcoin instead. I think it would be relatively confusing in the short term, but probably would be good for Bitcoin's price in the medium to long term, because people have a serious cost basis paralysis or uh, number basis or whatever it's called. I can't think right now. It's early for me, guys, and I have a baby, so I didn't sleep. um, yeah, it's what is that? It's a number basis or whatever the hell. Yeah. So people are buying these shit coins because they think they're cheaper. Oh, I can't get one Bitcoin. Unit bias. Thank you, Jor. Thank you, Jor. A couple hours ahead of me. You've had a little more coffee, maybe, or you're just more locked in. Yes, the unit bias is real. If we called them Bitcoin, that would solve that, but it would be temporarily confusing. What the hell? Bitcoin's only worth, you can get 10 Bitcoin for a penny. That's crazy. What happened to Bitcoin? Do cash and carry with collateralized stable, so anyway it moves, it's bullish. You can't select the same option when you did file and import for when you try to do it under Keystore. Interesting. Okay, didn't know that. Yeah, they might have it more limited to the devices that they allow and accept for multi-sigs. That would be my guess there. Okay, guys, an hour over. I got about 5 minutes before I got to jump on this call. Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate the $20 there, Pac-Man. You're the legend. Appreciate you all. There's had 9 viewers over on Zapstream on Nostra. That might be a personal record of mine. Check out the school community again. There's the link here if you scan that, and you can join an awesome group of Bitcoiners and learn a little bit more about Bitcoin through my courses. And there's all sorts of stuff on there. Bitcoin Masters. Check that out. Everybody, thank you. Have a good day. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with the legend himself, Jor, and Rajat as well. So see you guys there.